Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Nick
I'm Browns Live.
from Top Notch Sports. And today we're going to go to the 2023 NFL mock draft for the Cleveland Browns. And this 32 GM content creator mock draft will be held on Saturday, April 15th. First off, Browns Live, I got to ask you, Browns, okay? What'd you think about the experience first before we even hop into this?
I had a great time. I thought it was a super fun experience. Probably one of the best things I've did with my account since I've had it for a couple of years now. It was a great experience. I mean, sitting through the draft, watching it, at home, and just going through the process was pretty fun. And overall, I think it was a great time.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I thought again, and any shocking without giving any spoilers away, anybody went before you thought or after you thought, or you think that anything crazy happened, actually being in the GM seat?
Oh yeah, I was really surprised with a couple of early round picks. A couple picks ahead of me too. And guys that I thought got picked pretty early. And that I would have thought would have fell to my spot. So I missed out on a couple guys there, but overall, I mean, nothing really was too shocking to me. I thought everybody, made solid picks. And I thought there was also, a lot of very surprising picks for the just just a lot of surprising picks, in the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think I
really
know
it.
some of the ones that you were thinking about. But again, like I said, disassociating yourselves from the national media, right? You hear the same guys going 1, 2, 3, 4 over and over and over again. And we start to get brainwashed like that's going to be the order. Then draft comes around and it's like, oh, that guy got taken 2 rounds too early. That was a reach. Not a reality. In reality, the NFL teams have a grade on these guys, and it's usually pretty close to one another. And then there's the national media that have a whole different grade. So again, it's interesting to see where we rank compared to where the actual draft's going to go. And then again, national media versus how the actual draft's going to go. So it's very interesting to see. Before we hop into anything else, plug in your page. Tell them a little bit about your page.
Sure. So on it, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, you can find me at Browns.live, and on Twitter, you can go either look me up at Browns.live or at Now Browns is my Twitter handle. I've had my page for a couple of years now. I mainly focus on, just Browns news. I try and keep it, keep it as strict as possible with that. Um, I make sure I'm 100% real with everything. I got a couple sources now, so I feel like I'm in a good spot to where I can provide everybody with some good information. I like to have a little bit of fun on game days. I will say, um, on game days, I do get a little upset when they're not playing the best. On my page, I do get a little heated, but I just pride myself with giving the people good information. And yeah,
No, and like I said, I don't care if you're a Bengals fan, a Ravens fan, a Steelers fan, you go give this guy a follow. It's a really nice page, and I think you do a phenomenal job. So go give this guy a follow. And besides that, now let's hop right into the slides. 180. 180, set. All right, here we go. Let's start with this guy right here, Kevin Stefanski. Okay, head coach of the Cleveland Browns. What's your take on him right now?
I've always been a fan of Coach Stefanski. I mean, he's a great dude. He's been here for going on 4 seasons now. He led us to the playoffs in his first year. I think he's a great dude. I think he's a really well-rounded offensive-minded coach. And I think he, strives in that area in the offense. Uh, Over the last couple of years, though, my opinions fluctuated with him. His first 2 years here, I was like, I love this dude's awesome. He's great he's great, designing offensive plays, being creative on offense. But a lot of issues came around with, his play calling, and his ability to be an overall head coach. With me and a lot of other Browns fans, they think that we just need a head coach. It's gonna be a head coach who doesn't, focus on the offense, the defense specifically. They let their coordinators and position coaches do that. That's my only thing with him. Overall, I think he's a solid, really solid coach. I think he knows how to, lead the locker room and, guys that are playing for us and keeping everybody kind of in line. And I think that he does get our team prepared for game day. But I do think he struggles in a couple areas. But overall, I think he's a great coach.
There you go. All right. So that's Kevin Stefanski. And again, from being an outsider too, I mean, I like this guy for the most part. I mean, you guys have talent though now. So again, I would like to see you guys make a push. I think you guys bringing Deshaun Watson shows that you guys want to make a push. And we'll have to wait and see. But again, I think that was a desperate move, like not a desperate move, but it's a move that says we're trying to win. You know, we're not trying to get a young guy and try to build him up anymore. You know, you guys moved on from Baker, you bring in Watson. That's a move to try to win now. Let me ask you this: if you guys don't win now, what's your opinion on that? I mean, is this guy's job safe? Is the GM's job safe? What are you thinking?
I don't think either of the jobs should be safe. I do think if the organization and the ownership of the Cleveland Browns had to, pick someone to move on from, I do believe it would be Kevin Stefanski over Andrew Berry. The reason I say that is because Andrew Berry is very good at managing money, and he also has made some very good free agent signings, especially this year's class. I feel like is his strongest class so far, from what I can, just see off prior knowledge and experience with the players. Um, but I do think if stuff doesn't get turned around this season and we don't succeed, I do think Kevin Stefanski will be the person blamed for all this. It may not necessarily be his fault, but I do believe he'll be the one that would be fired.
Yeah. Okay. So enough said with that. Now let's hop in to the depth chart. But before we do that, let's look at the grade scale. So here's the grade scale. Okay. There's 4 categories: trades, draft, talent, and needs that you're graded on. Trades is, the trades that you made, we'll give you a grade on that. Okay. Plain and simple. If you did good, we'll give you a good grade. If you did bad, we'll give you a bad grade. If you didn't make any trades, then we'll just give you a not applicable grade, which ultimately ends up being a C plus. Drafting, draft's just overall draft. Trades, talent, needs, etc., all combined into kind of one. It's our overall way is just saying, as an entire draft, how did you do? Talent, did you draft really good talent? And just because you draft good talent does not mean that you drafted positions of need. Those are 2 totally different things. So need fit versus talent, huge thing. You might get really good grade on one, not so good on the other, etc., etc. Another thing I want to mention here is this. Our grade scale, okay, is very interesting. Okay, I'm going to mention this in every single video. Let's start right here. Okay, we're going to give you a number grade. This is more accurate. The letter grade is just to make it look better. Number grade, if you get a 50, okay, that's a C plus for us. Okay, in real life, that's an F. But for us, it's a C plus. So understand that your number grade might look low, but in reality, you didn't do bad. Another thing I want to mention, going up here, here's a good example. The B plus. B plus, in real life, it's like an 88, 89. Okay. But on our scale, it's a 75. Okay. So again, a 75 is really good. Just, in real life, it would be 88, 89. So if you get a 75, you knocked out of the ballpark. You know what I'm saying? Even if you get a 67, you did pretty damn good. Okay. So does this make sense to
Right.
you again?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I want to make sure because again, our numbers are off key. And another thing I want to mention too before we go into this, the letter grades, we've handed out maybe 1, maybe 2 A's so far. Like we have not handed out a lot of A's at all. So I mean, if there's one GM that had A's, it's crazy. So for the most part, most people are seeing themselves getting B's or even C's. All right, so now let's hop into the depth chart. Here's the actual depth chart. Okay, what you see in green are guys that you signed this year, guys in orange are guys that you re-signed, guys in pink are guys that you traded for. I'm going to let you break this down. Let everyone know where you think the strengths, weaknesses are, and what you like here.
Sure. So with this depth chart here is the main weakness that I see is at linebacker and defensive tackle on the defensive side. I feel that the Browns' defensive tackle position, even after bringing in Delvin Tomlinson, is still a very weak position. After Tomlinson, we have Jordan Elliott, Perrion Winfrey, Tommy Togiai, and I believe in Roderick Perry. We're not very deep at that position. Jordan Elliott was a 3rd-round pick in 2020, has not lived up to any expectations at all, and hasn't produced well. Last year's 4th-round pick, Perrion Winfrey, I thought he progressed well through the season. A couple off the field concerns, and we don't really know what's going to happen with him going into the season. There's been a little bit of confusion around that. Andrew Berry mentioned it a couple days ago in his press conference that he will be staying with the team, so I guess that's a plus for us. But I see that as our biggest need right now. I think that a defensive tackle, especially a run defending tackle, is something that we truly need. And I think I kind of addressed it in this draft here, but another position on defense is linebacker. We re-signed Anthony Walker, which I don't mind Anthony Walker personally. I thought Deion Jones played better than him, and I would have liked to see Jones come back over Walker. But Anthony Walker is a great leader in that locker room. Players loved him. They wanted him back. Everybody wanted him back, from what I could hear, from what I was hearing. He was our signal caller. And he also took a lot of blame for our troubles last year and getting people lined up and in the secondary. So I think he's just a good guy to have accountability on the defense. And I think he's someone Jim Schwartz likes at middle linebacker, someone who's smart, quick, good in the run game, good in the pass game, all that stuff. Then we have Tony Fields, fifth rounder, also from, I think he's from 2021. I may be wrong there. I'd have to look. Um, Had a pretty good battle back season. I feel like he didn't really play much his rookie year. Was mostly a special teamer. Last year he got, I think, one or two starts, and he made the most of it. He had a forced fumble and a pick six, a ton of other stuff. I thought he had a great year. I think he will be on this roster next year, but I don't see him continuing to have the starting spot over someone like Walker, JOK, anybody that we draft, and stuff like that. As for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, I think he's a lock to be a starter on this defense. Nobody's position's locked in, but he's someone that they draft. They like him a lot, and he flies around the field. He makes a lot of really nice tackles. He's solid in coverage. He's super fast, and he's like what we need in this division to help lock down Lamar Jackson and the Joe Burrows and all them from running out the pocket and stuff like that. But those are my main two concerns, with the defense. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't really have as many concerns other than from our left tackle position with Jedrick Wills. He was our first round pick in 2020. Really hasn't lived up to expectations at all. He's regressed from his rookie year. And even with offensive line coach Bill Callahan, who's one of the best in the business, he's just taken a step back. He's someone that hasn't had their option officially picked up yet, even though the expectation is for it to be picked up here soon. So we don't know what's really going on with Jedrick Wills, but I think he's probably our biggest flaw on offense right now. We got Elijah Moore from the Jets, which I'm stoked about. I think he's a great route runner, gets open, scores a lot of touchdowns, so I'm great to have him. That's looks like all we got there for the breakdown of the
Yeah, absolutely. And
starters.
I mean, it's a solid lineup here. Okay, again, and I want to mention a few things. The Dalvin Tomlinson signing, I think, is a big one. I mean, this is going to kind of lock down. He's always been a solid player. Grant Delpit was a number one safety coming out of that draft class. Love him. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is my number one linebacker coming out of that draft class. Love him. Juan Thornhill's a really nice addition. Denzel Ward's always been great. Njoku, Amari Cooper, I know him being a Raiders fan. I love Elijah Moore as well. Donovan Peoples-Jones is solid. I had him, before. Now he's starting to finally come out of his shell. I had him ranked
Yep.
above Chase Claypool coming out. Nobody else really had that. I think this guy can be really good. Hopefully, Deshaun Watson can get him the ball. I also really like Jedrick Wills, and it's unfortunate to hear that he's not really doing that great. Hopefully, we can see him rewrite his career here. We'll have to wait and see. But again, looking at this offensive line, it's a pretty dang solid offensive line. So let me ask you this real fast.
Yeah, the offensive line's great.
Yeah, let's sum this up quick, real fast. Biggest strength, biggest weakness. What do you got on this team right now?
Biggest weakness, still defensive tackle. Biggest strength, I believe, is our offensive line still.
For sure. I absolutely agree with that, for sure. Like being an outsider looking in, I 100% agree. All right, so that's your actual depth chart. Now let's look and see what you ultimately did. Here are the moves that you made. Okay, so let's start with the trades. I'll go over the trades, and then again, we'll look at everything after. So trading wise, you moved up 8 spots in the third round. You went from 98 to 90, and you moved up 2 spots in, the fourth round. So in reality, and you gave up next year's 6th and 7th. So I'm looking at this like, all right, well, clearly, I mean, you moved up in this year's draft class, a total of 10 spots, and you gave up a 6th and a 7th next year. To me, that looks pretty good. What's your breakdown on the trades there?
Yeah. So for my third round selection, I was at 98, and one of my defensive tackle prospects was taken off the board very early. I was expecting him to fall to my first pick at 74, and he didn't. So at that point, I made the decision that I need to move up to grab, solid defensive tackle who could fit in our defense. And I thought that's pretty much just it. I moved up. I just needed to get him in my mind. I thought it was just someone that, could lock down the position, develop into a, solid role player, even become a starter if he performs well. With my fourth round pick, I did a little research. The Los Angeles Chargers had pick 125 and I was at 126. Doing some research on them, it looked like they wanted to take Travius Hodges Tomlinson from TCU. And he was somebody on my board that I really wanted. He was taken way before the fourth round, unfortunately, but I wanted to jump in front of the Chargers and grab him before the Chargers could. That's my reason behind the fourth round pick. Uh, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think I got two solid players. I got two solid defensive tackles with those picks. So I'm pretty happy with how I moved around those picks.
Absolutely. I mean, again, look, you moved up 8 spots in the third. You moved up, like I said, 2 spots in the fourth. And you give away, late round draft picks next year in way later rounds. I mean, the sixth and the seventh round, that's nothing. You definitely, got good grades probably on the trade there. Now you look at the draft picks here. Let's start with the first guy, Jordan Battle, safety. What did you see in him?
I just think he's a thumper. I think he's, someone that can come down, you know, lay the lick in, I'll say, on someone coming across the middle. I think he's pretty solid in coverage. I mean, I was watching some film of him against a couple teams, and he looked like he was, just somebody that's just all around a good safety, which is what the Browns need. We got Juan Thornhill, who's more of a center field guy that can roam around, make plays all over, and we got Delpit, who I think, is great in the box. He's pretty solid in coverage too. He gets a couple interceptions every year, makes a lot of big plays for us. I think Battle is just the guy that the Browns need to be like that thumping safety. Someone comes across the middle, he just lays them out, make plays on the ball, solid tackler. That's pretty much what I've seen on Battle, and that's why I decided to take him with my third round pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan Battle is my number one ranked safety. You got him in the third round. So again, like I said, I'm not the only guy grading your picks here. So I mean, I'm pounding the table for that pick because again, I love this guy. He's a guy for me. I mean, number one, he's not a small guy, 6'1", 209, and a 4.55 40. I thought he was an absolute monster. He can do a little bit of everything. He is missing top end speed, right? But like you already got Delpit, who I
100%.
absolutely love as well. You got Thornhill. I think Battle could be phenomenal for you guys. He does a good job jumping routes and taking it the other way. Has great hands, and I believe he's a great ball hawk as well. He reads and reacts super fast, and he has crazy, crazy hitting ability. I feel like this is an awesome pick for you guys. You pair him up with my number one safety a few years ago in Grant Delpit. I know you got Thornhill too, but man, you got two of my top ranked safeties. I mean, think about your defense. Of course, Myles Garrett was the number one edge rusher that year. Then you got my number one linebacker in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Denzel Ward was my number one cornerback that year. Number one safety, in Grant Delpit. And now you draft my number one safety in Jordan Battle. I mean, you guys are just drafting my number one prospects in almost every, and my number one offensive tackle in Jedrick Wills, who hasn't been panning out, but hey, he was my number one guy there too. So
Right.
another nice piece there for sure. All right, that's that. Let's go to the next guy in the third round. This is an unoriginal pick. Guys in purple, your original picks. Guys in blue are picks that you traded for. You bring in defensive tackle Jalen Redmond. What do you think about him?
I think he was just someone that, could play really good in the run game. He, at Oklahoma, he played a little bit of nose tackle, did a little bit of everything. I know sometimes he played in the edge, he moved around. I thought he had great size. And I just think he's a solid run defender, which is what the Browns need kind of in the rotation. I don't see him as a day one starter, but he's someone with new defensive line coach Ben Bloom that, could develop, learn from Delvin Tomlinson and the other guys that we got who are coming back and hopefully just develop over time. And I just thought he was somebody that's big, can move around the D line and just give good production off the bench.
Absolutely. And again, third round pick here, so you can't be too picky with what you're getting. This is my seventh ranked defensive tackle. He's probably my highest guy left on the board at the time when you chose him. So again, it shows you again, for me, this is great value here. 6'2", 291, slightly undersized for a DT, 32-inch,
Yep.
but runs a 4.8, 140. I said this kid is the first and only kid that I watched on the edge that plays the game violently. So he plays DT and edge. He does a little bit of both. Okay. So this is a guy that can use a little bit of versatility. But I said violently. He will slam the ball carrier into the ground. He plays with high effort, which I love to see. He is very raw, but seeing him play with high effort is something any coach would want to work with. And, if they're willing to coach this kid up, I think he could be extremely special. Let's go to the next guy, wide receiver Jayden Reed.
Yeah, I love Jayden Reed. He's got solid height for a wide receiver. I believe he's 6'1" or 6 foot to 6'1", which is, solid size for what the Browns need. We don't need really a dedicated slot guy anymore with Elijah Moore coming back or coming here, and we have David Bell returning. And we also have Jakeem Grant, who I'm super excited to see. Unfortunate that he had an injury last year. But I think Jayden Reed can someone that can come in and camp, compete for that outside boundary receiver spot with Peoples Jones and Amari Cooper. He's just a super good route runner. He had a great Senior Bowl. He was coached by Brown's now assistant QB coach and offensive assistant Ashton Grant. Um, and I think he's just a really good route runner. He's got decent speed. I don't think his speed is off the charts, but I don't really think that's what the Browns need at this point. I think we need someone that, can create separation, get open, catch the ball, and I think Reed does all of that.
Yeah. So, all right, I got him listed down at 5'10", 187. So maybe my notes might be off. And like I said, I usually round down, if anything, for the height. If they're like 5'10" and 3/4, I'll round down to 5'10". So again, I might be off here, but he's a guy for me that was interesting to watch. He is able to, both high point the football in the air and uses agility after the catch. So again, this is a guy that can do a little bit of everything. Again, you pair him up, like you said, he's definitely not going to be, a day one starter for you guys. But this is a guy with Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I feel like this guy could be a nice depth piece for you guys. And again, somebody that you can use going forward. Let's sum up these last few guys all together. Defensive tackle Byron Young from Alabama. There's two Byron Young, so we want to make sure we stress Alabama here. Offensive guard Jackson Kirkland, linebacker Mohamed Diabate, running back Chase Brown, and quarterback Jake Haener. Let me have you sum them up pretty quickly.
Sure. So Byron Young, I'm a big fan of any Alabama defensive tackle. I think they play really great in the league. Byron Young, I think, find more as a pass rusher. Somebody that's just super overall well-rounded that could do a little bit of everything, play inside, play outside, all that. With my first fifth rounder, I took Jackson Kirkland. He was solely a depth piece for me. I think the Browns lacked depth last season, and it's shown. It showed with all the injuries and stuff that we had on the offensive line. So I thought he would be a solid piece with that pick that I had there to grab my offensive lineman there. With my second, fifth rounder, I took Mohamed Diabate from Utah. I think the linebacker room also needs more depth. They need, a big guy like him, could play, roam around the field, and be a solid depth piece, and also can contribute on special teams. With my sixth round pick, I took running back Chase Brown. With Kareem Hunt's departure and unlikely to re-sign back, I thought it was a good thing, to get a running back, someone that could, play behind Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford. Overall, I think he's just a solid guy, shifty, quick, and be a good with this offense, catching out the backfield as well. And then with my seventh round pick, I took QB Jake Haener. He's just, someone that's going to come in during camp, compete, maybe become the third quarterback on the roster, even on the practice squad. I thought he was pretty solid there, and the Browns have a lot of interest in him. So I thought that was, a solid pick.
Yeah. So let me start real fast. Byron Young, I had him listed as an edge when I scouted him. You can do a little bit of both, though, for sure, too. Again, you got him really late. This is a guy that I think he ran a really extremely fast 40. I'm trying to find my notes right now on him. I can't find it right off the top of my head. I believe he ran, if I can find it real fast. 4.43. 4.43. 6'3", 251, 33-inch reach. I would probably put this guy on the outside, but again, he plays both inside and outside. He is quicker on film. Like Browns, you realize like that on Madden's like a 92 speed, correct?
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, so I mean,
Defensive
this is
tackle.
ridiculous. He's extremely quick on film. He does a good job pursuing the running back from the opposite side. Again, that would all add up because how fast he is. Jackson Kirkland's a guy that was, another player that I kind of like here too. He's a versatile guy. He can play interior offensive line or offensive tackle. He can do a little bit of everything. 6'7", by the way, 321, 33-inch reach. Probably going to play at offensive guard, but again, could play tackle as well. Your linebacker, Mohamed, to me, he's a guy. I love this guy. He's one of my top ranked linebackers coming out of this year's draft class. I like him a lot too. He's a guy, again, too, physicality wise, big guy. He was my fifth ranked linebacker. You got him all the way in the late fifth round, middle of the late fifth round. For me, 6'4", 229 unofficially. I don't know if he had his pro day. He probably had his pro day, so we got to see what his official numbers are. But to me, he was just a guy that, he has a great burst of acceleration to meet the running back in the hole. When he's, when he reads a play, he can absolutely lay a nice boom on the, running back, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things I can say about him. Like him, I want to see what his official height and weight is, though. I don't have that officially with me. And last but not least, running back Chase Brown. This is another guy. Ran a 4.43, 5'9", is his height, 209, 4.43, 40. Great elusiveness, very slippery runner. Interesting guy. You pair them all up, and then you bring in quarterback Jake Haener, another guy that I'm a pretty big fan of. So ultimately, let me ask you this: any regrets or any things that you're really happy about with the draft that you had?
I thought I had a pretty good draft. I was a little disappointed in the third round. when I wasn't able to pick a defensive tackle. I was really high in Gervon Dexter. I wish he would have fell there, or Keanu Benton. Those are two guys I was looking at that felt pretty close to me. But overall, I think it was a good draft. The only thing I probably would say is I probably would have stayed at 98 to pick Redmond. I think he would have fell to that spot. Um, but that's really it. I thought it was a pretty solid draft. I thought I got some good guys for depth since I don't really think we needed to really address anything major this offseason, other than what we got in free agency.
Absolutely. So, all right, that's that. So now let's look at the next slide. All right, here are the moves that you made on paper. So now we're adding, the moves that were made in real life, plus the moves that you made. Byron Young, Jordan Battle, probably stepping in day one. What do you think about this roster now?
I think this roster has 100% improved, depending on how they would play in the preseason, during training camp and injuries or anything like that. I think Byron Young is someone that can come in day one, provide you good pass rush up the middle, paired next to Myles Garrett, who's incredibly just insane. And then 007, as we call him down here in Cleveland, Agbo Okoronkwo on the edge. I think he's a real good, nice up and coming player. And Delvin Tomlinson's going to teach the young guys. Delvin's a real awesome dude from some of his videos that he's done here so far. And I think Byron Young could be an immediate day one impact player. And then you have Jordan Battle. I think Battle would be someone that's going to rotate in, maybe in the nickel, dime defenses, whatever Jim Schwartz, heart desires with him. He can play really anything. He can play the free safety, I think. He can play the strong safety. He's just somebody really versatile. Another move I made here is I put Sione Takitaki back at his Sam linebacker position, where he played last year. He got hurt, unfortunately. But he was having a great season. I'm really happy they have him back. He's put a lot of work in. And I think if this lineup that we have here is probably the best lineup they could put out. With DB, though, I would say Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson. That's going to be a fierce battle to watch in camp. Both super talented corners. That's something I'm going to be watching.
Absolutely. So, all right, let me ask you this now, okay? Overall, what's the biggest weakness still maybe that you would say? Is there anything that you would still say that maybe you would want them to address, if there's maybe somebody, a free agent still or something like that, or no?
I would actually still have to say that it would be left tackle or still linebacker. I think that they still need some depth there. I would like us to re-sign Reggie Ragland as someone for linebacker. Then offensive tackle, I believe that they could just need to sign one or two guys that can, switch between guard, tackle, just can move around the line.
Absolutely. So again, I look at this roster here. It's a pretty then completed roster. Again, if everything stays smooth here, we'll wait and see. Like I said, it's all going to come down to injuries and if Deshaun Watson can live up to what they thought he could when they brought him in. 7-10 last year, they finished last in the AFC North. If this team makes the moves that you made, where do you think they ultimately end up finishing? What's their record? Where do they finish in the division? Do they make the playoffs, and how far do they go?
So the first question, I'll answer your first question here. I think they'd be an 11 to 12 win team. I think there's a couple games in there that, for the Jets, for example, they got A-Rod. I think that's going to be a really hard game. And I think, it all depends on Deshaun Watson. If he plays insane next year, he's put a lot of work in this offseason, the videos he's posting, he got a ton of guys to show up to the workouts that are voluntary stuff. So I think we're going to finish around 11 to 12 wins is where I'm going to put us. I think that we'll finish between first and second in the AFC North, like I said, depending on Deshaun. If we get to the playoffs, I think it really just depends. I think we have a lot of good coaching experience on our team. We got a lot of, good experienced coaches, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that we'd have a good push to make one for the AFC, conference championship or conference title.
Yeah.
Conference title there. I don't think this is a Super Bowl roster right now. I think it has the whole potential to go to the Super Bowl. It's just all about how, play calling goes and all that. And yeah, I think that easy 10, 11 or 11 to 12 win season. I think the AFC North title or the AFC title, is their limit to the playoffs, and winning the division would be nice this year.
For sure. And again, I mean, the AFC North is continuing to get better. The Bengals are constantly getting better. The Ravens, if they bring back Lamar, they might be getting better. The Steelers, year 200, Kenny Pickett, are getting better. And this Browns team, again, in my opinion, if they make the moves that you made, it's getting better. The thing is how is this team, it's going to come down. Can they make that jump? Like you said, they went from 7 wins last year. Can they get, I think this team on paper, this team can win 12, 13 games, no problem on paper. It's going to be, can they all click and actually get it done? I'm going to say this team probably ends up going. I mean, here's my prediction. If they make the moves that you made, I feel like it's fair to say that this team goes 10-7. They're battling for the number 2 seed in the AFC North. They ultimately make the playoffs. And again, I feel like they're going to make it to probably the divisional round. And again, if they can piece a few games together, Browns, you have anything can happen. Anything can happen. It's a really solid roster here on paper. So again, we'll have to wait and see. But I like the moves that you made. Everything here looks good, and I would be excited. Now, let me ask you this real fast, okay? Well, before we do that, I'm going to show them, here's a roster in real life. Here's your team. Roster in real life, your team. Roster in real life, your team. One more time. So what do we add? We added Brian Young over Jordan Elliott. We're adding Jordan Battle to fill in at a role where you're going to rotate them. And ultimately, we're bringing a lot of other pieces too that we don't list here, like Redmond, et cetera, that aren't listed, but we know that they're going to play a role. So that's that. But now let me ask you about this team. This is a team on paper. What do you think they're going to end up doing on Thursday? Well,
So
actually,
on Thursday,
they don't draft Thursday. I'm sorry. So Friday.
Friday, I think that their first pick, I am fully set on. If Gervon Dexter's there, that's the guy they're taking. They've met with him 3 or 4 times at the combine, pro day, all that stuff. They've met with him. They had him in for a top 30 visit. I think that their most likely options are going to be safety D tackle or D tackle safety. They could surprise us. The Browns are unpredictable. I've said this every year. They're unpredictable. You don't know who they're going to take. They could take an offensive tackle for all we know. They could take a wide receiver. They could do anything. Could take a running back in the 3rd round. I wouldn't be surprised if they address their second D tackle spot with their first pick on Friday night.
Absolutely. And again, so your dream scenario is Gervon Dexter, or I also know that you like Keanu Benton too.
Correct. Yeah, I think.
I mean, your dream scenario is whom then? I mean, are either of them guys are good for you?
I'm good with either of them. I think they're both really good. Dexter is monstrous. He's like 6'6", huge dude. I think he would just be really good to pair up with Dexter. And Benton, he was really highly rated, coming out the combine and coming out of Wisconsin. Played under Jim Leonhard, who, played for the Browns at one point in Philadelphia and all them. Pretty solid coach. So I would be really happy if they got either of them.
Absolutely. All right. So that's that. Now we're going to go to the main event here. The final grades. Okay. This is a part that, we're going to try to get this done pretty quickly, but we're going to go over each one. After I announce each one, you're more than welcome to rebut it or say it's a fair grade. Let me know what you think and let us know if our guys got it right or wrong. And again, we'll reevaluate this down the line. So if you think we're wrong, we'll, give you more GM points and ultimately, you have the final laugh. So let's start with the first one. The first one is trade. They ended up giving you a B-. Now, again, I want to make this clear. A's are very rare to get. I personally thought, looking at your trade just 2 minutes ago, that it should have probably been higher. I mean, you moved up a lot in this year's draft class. You gave away, the other stuff. But the main reasoning, according to them, was, like you mentioned also too, did you have to move up to get Jalen Redmond? And again, your idea was to get somebody else. You ultimately got Redmond. I mean, what do you think about this grade? Let me know what you think.
I think it's a fair grade. I do think I probably would have been able to stay in 98 and grab Redmond. I think at that point, the board was running low on defensive tackles that I liked. So I thought it was just necessary to move up. Detroit, gave me a fair deal, so I thought that was a good, just quick move up and secure my guy.
Absolutely. So they went with a B-. And again, like I said, the default, trade thing for someone that didn't make a trade is C+. So ultimately you got to tick higher than that. So that means that you basically, they see that you won, it's not like, oh, you did, this B- is above average. Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. Draft. The overall draft, they went with a B+, and again, I want to keep on mentioning how I was pounding on the table too for this too, because hell, I mean, you got a lot of guys that I like. The trades that you made, the talent that you acquired, the needs that you got. I feel like B+, again, for me, honestly, too, I feel like this is pretty fair. You got some really good guys in the 3rd round, high quality guys for having, your top pick be a 3rd round pick. What do you think about that grade?
I think that's a great grade. Especially for missing, on the guy I wanted. I think Dexter would help boost that a little bit. At least from what I watched.
Yeah.
Or even Benton. But I think I still had a solid draft. My board was running thin at the 3rd round, who I liked. So I think I got, solid guys in that. And I think I just picked up a lot of, solid depth pieces.
For
So I'm pretty
sure.
happy with that.
Absolutely. So now we're going to go to the next one. Talent, an A minus. Holy crap, you're one of the few GMs that cracked into the A's. Congratulations. Give yourselves a pat on the back for that. I mean, again, Jordan Battle, was my number one safety. I liked him. Your linebacker, Muhammad, good pick too. I like him. Chase Brown was a good pick, just a role player for you. Jalen Redmond was probably my top guy on the board at the time that you drafted him. And I can go on and on here though. But what do you think about talent being an A minus?
I'm really happy with that. I think that I picked just a lot of solid guys, like, coming into training camp. I don't think everybody that I drafted would make this roster though. I think that's, a lot of guys on our team have a lot of talent. I mean, we got some good, guys that are coming, off the bench that were fighting for time last year and they just couldn't. Um, but I think, that's a great grade for me at least. I feel happy with that. So let's leave it
All
at
right.
that.
And that's that. And the last but not least, the final grade needs a B plus. They felt like, again, you addressed most of your needs on your team. Again, we talked about the defensive tackle spot. We talked about the safety spot, adding another depth piece. You bring in another running back. You bring in, a wide receiver. You do a lot of things that your team needed to do. What do you think about getting a B plus in the need?
I'm really happy with that. I mean, we only needed, a couple positions, to start immediately, come in and start someone new. And otherwise, everything else is kind of just role players, depth signings. Diabite, especially since our linebacker core ran really thin last year. We were running with some dudes that we just picked up off the street, I'm going to say. I think that was, we did have a lot of needs, and I think we addressed most of them.
Absolutely. So now we're going to look at the final few things here. Ultimately, you earned 850 GM points from this, so congratulations. You're going to be able to use those in upcoming, next year's free agency. Your final score is a 73, which leads us to giving you a B as a grade. So that's that. Now we're going to go back on. I'm going to go back on camera now, and we're going to sum this thing up.